What's the best theory on UFOs or aliens you've ever heard? That greys aren't fully biological, but rather remotely controlled androids, or that they are biological, but their gray appearance is a suit and not the actual body. Imagine other life forms looking at our astronauts saying, "Here come the marshmallow cyclops creatures again." That if any civilization elsewhere in the universe had the technology to reach us, for any reason, they'd be very likely to also be able to disguise their presence from our detection methods. That is, they could observe us close up using nanotech, microscopic biological spacecraft, etc., and we'd never know. That life in the universe could be so unrecognizable to us that we wouldn't even register it as being alien life. What if life on another world was not carbon-based, but another element? How would we even know what to look for, since our definitions and descriptions of life are based on a completely different perspective? There are so many star systems with potentially inhabitable planets out there that the chances that we have been the only life in the universe is extremely slim. The question, instead, is whether life arising elsewhere has managed to survive destruction and remain alive today such that they might be able to contact us. That is to say, there have probably been countless civilizations for the past several billion years that simply haven't made it. The best two I've heard. We don't allow ourselves to contact lost tribes in the Amazon or other wild places. Extraterrestrials may have similar laws on a galactic scale. We split the atom, but made weapons out of them instead of trying to reach the stars. They leave us alone out of fear that we'll destroy ourselves if war accidentally breaks out. Any species advanced enough to find us wouldn't make contact. They'd study us the way we study animals, ideally with minimal interference. Compare the average abduction story to the way we dart large animals, collect data and leave them to wake a bit groggy and confused but unharmed. UFOs are higher dimensional objects moving through our dimension. Like, if we moved a 3D object through 2D space, to a 2D being, it would look crazy weird. A hollow sphere would start as a dot, then look like a hula hoop that starts small, gets big, then small again. They'd have no idea what they were looking at. So WTF would the higher dimension object look like passing through our 3D dimension? It might rapidly change shape or appear to move at incredible speed as the whatever moved through our space-time. Gravity wouldn't affect it, I don't think. It wouldn't appear to have any form of propulsion. That they are from a breakaway human civilization that is keeping their secrets to themselves. Essentially, that some place like Wakanda is real, or that Jules Verne really isn't science fiction. It's actually science fact. When the rest of the world was making do with steam-powered industrialization, someone figured out anti-gravity and zero-point energy from the interaction between electromagnetism and gravity. So they kept this technology for themselves, and have been zipping around the rest of us keeping an eye on things. The movie Contact actually makes a good case that we haven't been visited by UFOs or aliens. Our most powerful broadcasts have traveled at best a few dozen light years from this planet. To put that into perspective, if the Milky Way galaxy was the same size as North America, the Earth would be a speck of dust floating around a knick-knack on a living room table in a house in Arizona. Our most powerful broadcast signals have made it to the end of the driveway, or at best across the street. If there were a hyper-intelligent species 2 blocks over desperately listening for signs of intelligence in the neighborhood, they wouldn't even know we existed for at least a couple thousand years, when they finally picked up our signal. Our first television broadcasts, it would take their response another couple thousand years to arrive here. I don't believe it, but that they live in underground caves and dwell primarily in Antarctica. I don't remember the complete theory, but people say they're an advanced race adapted for life underground, and that they have advanced machinery because they have been living on the Earth longer than humans. There is a very simple explanation as to why abductees independently describe gray aliens as looking the same. There are no aliens and no abduction took place, but rather they are abstracting residual memories left over from being infants and looking up at adults. Before an infant's visual cortex is fully developed, an adult human looking down at them would appear rounded and gray in color with large eyes. Cross that indistinct memory with the sleep state subconscious and standard psychological patterns and boom, alien abduction. It also explains the sensation of being lifted, examined and probed. Brian Cox's, at least that's who I heard this from first, solution to the Fermi paradox, TLDR. Most civilization advanced enough to get even close to interstellar travel becomes too energy intensive and destroys themselves, their planet before they get far enough for interstellar contact. The U.S. military has intentionally orchestrated alien sightings and kidnappings, as well as funded UFO religions and conspiracy theories, to prevent people from being taken seriously should they happen to notice some experimental planes and so forth. There are no aliens, but there are U.S. military agents in goofy spacesuits who mutilate cattle and probe deranged people to encourage them to make fools of themselves. We're not the first. We are the aliens that we're looking for. Mammals are not native to Earth. The asteroid was a massive chunk of our planet and we populated the Earth after that. Is that a theory that I believe? No. Not at all. Is it a good concept for a sci-fi movie? Yes. All the UFO sightings throughout history are just humans from the future on a time-traveling safari meant to observe how we were in the past. They are supposed to keep out of sight, but thanks to human mechanical errors there have been hiccups with their cloaking which have resulted in being seen. That's why there have always been so many reports of them throughout history, but there has never been an attack. It's just us. Also the reason why we don't see as many examples of UFOs now even through pretty much everyone has a camera is because people are not that interested in this time period since we already document aspects of human life all the time. That we are the first and or the most advanced life forms at this moment in space, time. I don't remember where I heard it, maybe some NPR program, but it's interesting to consider. We often discount the idea that we could ever be that special, but there is always the chance that we are. Someone had to be the first. That someone might just be us. Not from space, but from here. But perhaps partially out of sync with us somehow. I think world mythology, fables, and other stories often describe similar beings throughout world history. This is just the most modern and popular take on the subject. That they're extraterrestrials, not extraterrestrials. They are some type of human evolutionary outcome from the future. It's why they look humanoid. If evolution were to theoretically continue, time travelers or dimension travelers may explain why they aren't violent, obvious, or intrusive. They're just what humans become in X years. Just a theory, but I think it holds weight. If you wanted to explore space, you'd send technology instead of risking the life of a scientist. The little gray, green men and other now cliché depictions are just biological computers that they can control, and that's why they look so simplistic and unidentifiable. Reminds me of Robot or Droids. Roswell. The fact that a military expert identified it as a spaceship publicly then had to do a very staged photo op to discredit himself, and that a bunch of people in the military had weird stories from that time, like flying a general to New Mexico then straight to Washington suggests they might have found something. Also, the government had to change their story and admit to lying doesn't sound great. I don't exactly believe it, but if I was forced to pick one, that would be it. That there are alien empires out there, but our planet is just restricted because it is on the border or a neutral zone between them. so no visitors are supposed to appear, but some jump quarantine to visit and deal in exotic Earth goods. Also from Miss MacArthur, the sightings of UFOs are just black market traders and their janky spaceships who have bad stealth tech, so they are more easily sighted and sometimes even crash. The gulfs of Earth may have some low-level deals with them for protection against things like asteroids. I had a fun theory that Earth is one of a few life-generating planets and that aliens are actually Earth-originated beings who have moved on to settle the galaxy. Any visits are them checking in on our development, and eventually we'll be advanced enough to join and make way for another wave. Not really a theory, I believe, more the basis for a story. That aliens may not take a form we would readily understand. We think of things as carbon-based life forms, but an alien could also appear to us as a gas, a metal, a rock, etc. We tend to imagine aliens in a human or animal form in line with what we understand from Earth, but an alien could take any number of different forms. Hell, an alien could appear to us as a ship or vessel. Imagine the vessel an alien travels with is actually the alien itself, a sentient entity that moves through space. That's to say, even as it travels through space, it's not how we conceive of space travel. That's not particularly out there, I suppose, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. It could easily get much crazier than that. Think of celestial bodies, stars, planets, etc., or space debris. What's to say these themselves couldn't also be life forms? We haven't observed any of this, but again, how could we know? We don't really think of it that way. We think in terms of little green men and space monsters, and even in some cases like space slime and viruses, etc. No one thinks about otherwise inanimate objects and things that might appear to us like water and gas also potentially having the capacity to be sophisticated life forms. The closest alien civilization, 92 light-years away, died out hundreds of millions of years ago. The next closest, 460 light-years from us, will begin evolving any day now and will attain technical mastery rivaling ours in about 1 billion more years. Currently, there are 2 other civilizations in our galaxy, one waning, and one waxing. The closest of them is 23,737 light-years away. We don't just have to line up on a relatively close spatial scale. Time frame is as much a factor as distance. Most civilizations don't have a window of more than 20,000 years where they flourish before petering, or flashing, out. Let's not forget that faster-than-light travel is theoretical at best, wildly impractical in reality, probably requiring the energy of many stars to be useful. In our own galaxy, no civilization has even colonized more than 5 star systems, much less cannibalized them for speed juice. In short, nobody's been here, and probably nobody ever will. So it goes. The theory that really intrigues me is that other beings in the universe find it pointless to contact us as we are not highly evolved creatures, and that trying to make contact with us would be as if humans tried to make contact and communication with ants. We wouldn't be able to understand them or comprehend anything they would say. Different wavelengths, or dimensions, if there's a difference. So, the same way we can't see, feel colors outside our visible spectrum, for example gamma rays, we're too different to interact with aliens. Sometimes they build odd contraptions to phase into our dimension. Sometimes mushrooms, chemicals disrupt our brain enough to see into their dimension. Neither method works for very long, so there's just sightings without much interaction. I find it interesting that we see proportionately less pictures, footage of UFOs now that we all have cameras in our pockets than in the 80s when film was expensive. It should be dramatically more, yet it isn't. And with HD, 4K, 8K now we should have really high quality proof, at least some. I've come across 2 that make sense too. Neither denies the possibility of aliens, but both posit that humans and aliens will likely never interact in a meaningful way. Aliens are long gone. The odds that humans will cross paths with another intelligent life form is slim. What if the aliens we are looking for are an extinct race of beings that existed millions of years ago? Maybe their civilization peaked during the age of the dinosaurs or even earlier, who knows? They may have visited Earth when the most complex life was a single-celled organism and moved on. Any aliens that reach Earth are lone travelers. Our species is just no exploring space travel, and it takes a long time to reach other planets. Imagine if another species, in another solar system, just a few hundred years ahead of us, technologically, has sent out a one-way exploration mission. They couldn't possibly make it to Earth and back in one lifetime. The best they can hope for is to observe, collect data, and send it back to be received by the next generation. I worked with a guy who had a conspiracy of a conspiracy. Thought that it wasn't aliens, it was demons from hell, and the government just wanted us to think that they were aliens so we wouldn't catch on to their evil devil plots. Had a good laugh. Adam and Eve were the single man and single woman that were sent from their dying planet to restart life. They landed on Earth, and the story in the Bible is a form of a creation story, but it's more like a rebirth of the human race. It's also funny that we saw cats have 9 lives and we also have 9 planets, depending on who you ask. Wouldn't it be crazy if Mars was that dying planet, and we've advanced so far technologically that without knowing it we have advanced to the point of reversing the damage in Mars that caused us to leave, while at the same destroying this planet. Golden Age of UFO sightings. Immediately after Golden Age of space travel development, experimental rocket planes. Immediately after explanations of flying lights in the sky around the American Southwest, unknown explanations of what the U.S. Air Force was testing during that time period, extant but classified. Golly, what could those lights be? https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/raw%c3% abysm. The gist is like this: imagine in the future, we decide to settle, say, Europa, with genetically engineered humans, since the genetic engineering is still controversial, or for whatever other reason you prefer. We decide to keep them isolated from humanity, not telling them about our existence, and simply follow their development as an experiment. So now we have this new race of humanoids on Europa, who aren't advanced at all, and think they are alone there, albeit seeing a human every now and then, since we still have to get in there sometimes, to adjust stuff. They think of the humans they see as divine beings, since we're way more advanced. Obviously, at some point, a catastrophe on Earth requires humanity to leave the solar system in a rush, and the humanoids of Europa are just left there. They continue to thrive and develop, remembering humans as their gods in their religions. Humans come back to observe their children's development from time to time, and those humans become prophets in the humanoids' religions. Now, what if we are the race left behind? There's a musician, comedian that does a bit on how we are just a living planet now, but for another planet full of life to pop up it might be millions of years later and millions of miles away. Connecting the two would be impossible. I can't remember, and it's on YouTube, but I can't find out. I've been looking for 46 minutes lol. If you've seen it, please share it with me. It's like Vlad the Astronomer or something. Man, tip of my tongue. Consider the fact that the human race is a divided mess of contradictory intents. We have the scientific community reaching out peacefully, yet if aliens do come into the airspace of any nation, the first to greet them would be the military. You can imagine what the response of the military would be when a UFO enters forbidden airspace. Given the declassified government files regarding UFOs, it is quite likely that contact has been attempted in the past, and the results being tragic. The galaxy is well populated, with the Galactic Council and everything, but aliens stay away because we are by far the most violent species ever encountered, the ones most capable of widespread destruction.